I'm not going to read a few verses about Abraham because the Abraham story covers 50 chapters in the scripture that Jews and Christians share, and all of it's important. So I'm going to just summarise what's in that story chapter by chapter. But I'm going to begin with what's not in the story, because when I heard the Quranic story about Abraham and his father's idols, I thought, I know that story, and I looked for it in Genesis, I couldn't find it. But we do have that story. But the person who smashed the idols wasn't Abraham, but Gideon, who came many generations, many centuries later. But the story begins. Abraham was originally called Abram, and he was married to Sarai, and they're childless. And with Abraham's father, Terah, they moved from Ur in Iraq to Haran in Syria. Now, when Abraham is 65 and Sarah a bit about my age, God calls him to leave for the land that I shall show you. So with Abraham's nephew Lot, they head towards Canaan, and at Shechem God makes them a promise that they will inhabit that land, and there'll be many generations coming after them. But then there's a famine, so they go down to Egypt. Strange story. Abraham gets Sarai to say she's his sister, and so Pharaoh takes her into his harem. But God doesn't like this and sends plagues, and when Pharaoh discovers Sarai is married to Abraham, he sends them both away. So they return to the Negev, where Lot goes east to Sodom and Abraham to settle at Hebron. 4 kings make an alliance against Abraham. He defeats them, but they make off with Lot, and Abraham rescues him. Another strange story, he's visited by the priest Melchizedek of Salem, who blesses Abraham and God, and Abraham gives him gifts. In a vision, Abraham remonstrates with God about his continuing childlessness. Years and years have gone by. God repeats his promise about land and descendants over a solemn sacrifice. Now the interesting bit. Sarai persuades Abraham to have a child with her maid, Hagar, the Egyptian. Sarai is then very mean to her pregnant maid. Hagar runs away but meets an angel by the spring on the way to Shur. The angel tells her to return but promises her many descendants. So she goes back and gives birth to Ishmael. At this point, God renames Abraham Abraham and Sarai Sarah, repeats the promise and commands circumcision. Abraham laughs at the promise of a son. He's now 90, but God promises the birth of Isaac, which means he laughs, and also many descendants to come from Ishmael's line. We're on chapter 18 now. Oh, this is another interesting story. There's this mysterious appearance of God, but it's God, but it's also 3 people. And they visit Abraham in his tent, and Abraham brings out the best hospitality. And they promise that this time next year, Sarah will have her son. And Sarah's hiding behind the tent flap, and she laughs. God is cross. Sarah says she didn't laugh. Then the men head for Sodom to destroy it because of its sin. And we have an episode where Abraham reasons with God, asking God to act justly and not destroy the innocent with the guilty. I won't say much about the next chapter in which Sodom is destroyed, but Lot is saved. Let me get almost a repeat of an earlier story where Abraham passes Sarah off as his sister again, this time to King Abimelech. Abimelech doesn't touch her, but when he finds out, he gives lots of gifts. At 90 years old, Sarah gives birth to Isaac, but Sarah then becomes jealous of Ishmael. God tells Abraham to go along with her wishes and send Hagar and Ishmael away. When Hagar's water runs out in the desert and the boy is about to die, God opens up a well. They go to live in Paran, and he's married to an Egyptian. Abraham and Abimelech settle a dispute over a well, amicably. God asks Abraham to sacrifice Isaac at Mount Moriah. Abraham complies, and so does the young Isaac when he realizes what's happening. God saves Isaac at the last moment and promises once again descendants and land, and that there will be a blessing to all the nations on the earth. Sarah dies at Hebron, and Abraham purchases land there for her tomb. He sends a servant back to Haran to bring a wife for Isaac, and the servant brings back Rebekah. Lastly, Abraham marries Keturah and has 6 more sons, whose descendants become Arabic tribes, as do the descendants of Ishmael. He died at 175 years old and is buried with Sarah. There's lots more in the Bible about Abraham, but that's the end of the story for now. Thank you.